Hello, Supervisor Mitchell. This is Dr. Carmen Downs. Can you hear us?
Good evening, I can. How are you all?
How are you? How are you? Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Frankly, I'm exhausted because I've been in a Metro meeting all day.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
But I appreciate you all inviting me. Thank you.
No, we appreciate it. More than you know. We know that you are extremely busy. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. We're gonna wait just one more minute if that's okay.
I know I signed out a little early, so don't mind me.
No, I was just going to introduce you to everyone who's on the call. So I'm the newly elected president, Dr. Carmen Downs. I'm giving you my Miss America wave.
Congratulations. Nice to meet you.
You as well. Thank you so much. And Cambrisha Montgomery is going to be one of our moderators asking you questions. And upper right-hand corner is Glenda Smith and Fabra Croft giving you her Miss America wave, and Star Thompson. And Dr. Regina Smith, she's lower left for me.
Got it, lower left for me too.
And then LaTanya Nelson, and all of these dynamic women are my coalition sisters.
Fabulous. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, good evening. Yes. Now, we know it's been a long day. So just think, Supervisor Mitchell, you get to end your day with the coalition of 100 Black women. What better way to end your day, right?
That's a great way to put it. Thank you.
Right?
Some bosses. That's a great way to put it. Yes. Because I started the day kind of rough, so I'm gonna end it better. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? We can go and get ahead and get started. Again, I just really want to formally welcome you and just continuously reiterate, we know that you are extremely busy, but you are joining us this evening for what our Public Policy Committee calls our Fireside Chat.
Wonderful.
And it is specifically for our members.
Beautiful.
And I don't know if you know this, Supervisor Mitchell, but 2022 marks more than 35 years of advocacy for the Los Angeles chapter.
That's amazing.
So we are ecstatic. We're ecstatic. And throughout that 35 years, our mission has not changed. We are still unapologetically focused on Black women and girls in health.
Beautiful.
Education, economic empowerment, and public policy. And you see just a portion of our chapter, but just know we're a growing chapter. We're generationally diverse, many different backgrounds and experiences. So we truly are learning from you this evening. Truly are learning. So you know what? We're just going to dive right into it with some of our questions. And I believe I am turning it over to Cambrisha, is that correct?
Well, you went out of order, but that's correct.
I'm sorry, did I go out of order? I knew I was going to do that. I will go to Chair Nelson then. I apologize. I knew I was going to do that. All yours, Chair Nelson.
Thank you, President Downs. I just want to again welcome you, Supervisor Mitchell, to our Fireside Chat. I serve as a public policy co-chair, and so thank you for taking a little bit of your time to be with us here this evening. I want to take a personal privilege to say thank you for assisting my family. My maiden name is Thea, so my little cousin was the one that actually her services were today. So you took the first step here in the LA County area. And I just want to say thank you. We are humbled and so appreciative of you for stepping in and showing your support and making it known.
Well, please let me say to you, the media keep asking me if I've talked to the family, and I've told them no. So I'm glad to have the opportunity to meet you. I said, because, I know that I am a Black woman and a mother. And what I'm supposed to do at this moment is do my job as a policymaker and jump on the policy front. So please know that I have sent you, your family, my heartfelt prayers. I spoke to the issue at Tuesday's board meeting. I spoke to the issue at a press conference, I think that was yesterday, with the district attorney, and I leaned in a little bit. which if any of you know me, know that I am prone to do. And unfortunately, there were some people who participated who attempted to hijack the press conference because they're mad at the district attorney. And I said, what was not going to happen was that they were not going to, through their implicit bias lens, deny why we were there. And that was to talk about this little girl. So please know that I'm gonna do all that I can to support your family and lift up her name.
We're so appreciative. And also another member, Philip Smith, has a connection too. So we do appreciate you and all that you've done, given this and working and making sure that her name is not in vain. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to my coalition sister, Cambrisha, and she'll go ahead and start our fireside chat. Thank you again, Supervisor Mitchell.
Thank you.
Greetings, Supervisor Mitchell. So we composed some questions for you. So I'm going to start off by asking the very first question. Based on your experience, how can we encourage Black women to become more involved in civic engagement campaigns and movements within Los Angeles?
So again, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I, by virtue of my role as a member of the LA County Board of Supervisors, I serve on the Metro Board. The chairwoman gavelled down the Metro Board meeting this morning at 9:30 and gavelled us out at about 10 to 6. So it's been a long day. And so in some of that time, we were listening to public comments. So I looked through your questions and I have to tell you, I got stuck on that question. I get that question a lot. And I got stuck on it because from my perspective, Black women don't have an option but to be involved civically. We don't have the luxury to not be involved because we are at the top of every negative list. The unhoused, victims of crime, victims of sex trafficking, highest maternal morbidity rates, one of the highest rates of COVID positive testing. Our children are the poorest performing across the state of California, have disproportionately been harmed as a result of this dual pandemic, the public health and economic pandemic that ensued as a result of this public health pandemic. So from my perspective, it's like, name the issue. And Black women, how can we not? I think that the challenge we all experience is helping Black women organize because most of us walk around overwhelmed every day, myself included. And so I think the question is, how do we help Black women find their voice, not give their power away, and organize ourselves in such a way that we can affect change in the policy arena, whatever the case is. But, Black women don't have the luxury to not be engaged civically. Whether it's we're going to honor our foremothers who fought so we could all have the luxury of being in all the places we are today, or because of the battles we are fighting every day still. We don't have the luxury to not be engaged civically. The question is, how do we tap into our power base? How do we cross socioeconomic and age spectrum? Because we know how that can be within the Black female community in order to organize. But Black women ought not need to be encouraged. We have too many needs and too many issues that we need to be waking up, going to fight over every day.
Oh, wow.
That's what happens when you get me on 6:30 on a Thursday night. You get unfiltered truth.
And that's what we want. That's what we want. I appreciate that answer so much. Our next question.
You get Cheetos. I'm having my dinner.
Hey. Okay. So what do you think are some of the biggest policy issues affecting the greater Los Angeles community today?
We just talked about it. It's everything. I'm really enjoying my metro service. Transportation is not an area that I have focused on. If you know anything about my background, I was a former CEO of Crystal Stairs. That I've come up in the health and human services realm. I've spent my entire career working to alleviate poverty, to combat multi-generational poverty. That's been the focus of my work my whole life. And so transportation is kind of a new area. But, we're fighting for transportation equity, because I am hearing from constituents who, because of the pandemic and with Metro having to cut back bus service, aren't able to get their kids to school or get to work. We got a call last week from a woman who works at LAX, who, because of the reduction in bus services, was late to work every day last week because 2 buses passed her up because they were full and the third one never showed up. So when I think about issues that disproportionately impact Black women, it's not perhaps your traditional ideas. So public transportation. I am fighting on Metro to make sure that they increase bus service in South Los Angeles, because that's where Black women are, and they use the buses to get to work, drop their kids off at childcare, and do what they need to do. Our healthcare delivery system, it's a Black woman who's the CEO at Martin Luther King Community Hospital. And Elaine and I have been friends for 25 years. And, Elaine has called me about the disproportionate number of people in that community that she's servicing that are COVID positive, and the numbers in her hospital, and recognizing that so many of us have pre-existing conditions and have long had infrequent, inconsistent healthcare coverage, which leads to inconsistent, infrequent preventive care services. And so how do we manage that at the county level? Far too many of us have family members or children who have been touched by our criminal and juvenile justice system. How do we bring equity and fairness in that system? Far too many of our children find themselves touched by the child welfare services system. LA County now has about 33,000 kids in the system, about 20,000 are in out-of-home care. How do I manage that? How do I deal with the issue that a Black child is more likely to be removed from their home, 4 to 5 times more likely than their white counterparts? How do I deal with, implicit bias in government systems? The unhoused, to drive through or walk through kind of historic traditional Skid Row and the blocks that have now expanded. You would think LA County's population was like 90% Black based on the faces you see on Skid Row. They are all Black. And we are like 7.8% of the county's population. And so our housing crisis disproportionately impacts us. And the housing instability for senior Black women is off the charts. So as you can see, I could go on and on from my perspective about issues that demand our attention. A friend of mine, Carlene Davis, has an organization, SAGE, Sisters Aging with Grace, and I think it's excellence. And she just did an amazing report where she's doing focus groups. I'm going to connect you, Madam President, to Carlene, because she's doing focus groups, interviewing Black women about our experiences, expectations, and plans around aging. She just issued a report, Sankofa Stories, that are really talking about our experience in aging as caregivers, as Black women, either without pensions or pensions that aren't enough to maintain us in stable housing, just all the issues that are impacting Black women. So those are all the issues I think that are relevant to all of us here in LA County, that have a direct impact on our ability to be well.
And so where do you believe that the National Coalition of 100 Black Women can advocate on those issues? Besides the focus group with SAGE.
Well, I'm glad you asked. I think it's important. No group can be effective, nor can I, spreading ourselves too thin. So I'm hoping that you all will identify a priority or two and go deep and lean in and organize, expand your numbers, educate Black women, and then give them the roadmap, toward advocacy. Human trafficking. I'm doing some work with Layla Ali. She has a nonprofit organization, and we've got some focus work coming up because of the Super Bowl. These major sporting events, when they come to cities, you see the human trafficking numbers go up. And I think far too many people still operate off of a number of assumptions. A, that, it's not women who look like us, not true, that they're foreigners that are brought in. That's not the lion's share of the victims in California, and certainly not LA County. Yes, girls that are in foster care, group homes, or out of home placement are often targeted, but I was shocked at some statistics I saw recently that it's not just girls in out of home placement, it's girls living at home who are trafficked. And so educating ourselves about that issue, making a commitment that we're going to step up and lean in on behalf of our girls who are victims of this concept of adultification, where they view Black girls in a different way. They view us in a different way. Oh, we're stronger. Oh, Holly, you can take it. You're this, you're that. I fight that every day. I'm sure all of you do as well. And so we have to make sure that we don't project that on our Black girls, and acknowledge that they're babies, they're girls, and have the right to be girls and children and treat them accordingly. And so figuring out, ways in which the coalition can identify what your policy priorities should and can be. As Sweet Alice Harris says, the founding parents of Watts, if California or LA County catches a cold, Watts gets pneumonia. Well, COVID has been a cold for this country, and Black women caught pneumonia. And so thinking through ways in which we help Black women not just survive this pandemic, but thrive. How we support Black women-owned businesses, how we help them navigate through this economic pandemic and come out stronger on the other side. Those are the kinds of things that wake me up in the middle of the night, but also help me get up the next morning with my clear mission of what I must do, particularly this year as chairwoman of the Board of Supervisors. LA County is almost 11 million. There are 5 of us who govern it. 36 county departments, about a $38, $39 billion budget. And I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised when I got to the Board of Supervisors. The CEO, arguably one of the most powerful, women, certainly in the county, but in government across this state, I would argue, is a Black woman, Phaedra Davenport. Powerful sister, brilliant sister who has spent really, I think, her whole professional career in the county. And not enough people know who Phaedra is. But she might prefer to keep it that way, but incredibly powerful. The director of HR for the county of 112,000 employees, a Black woman. The director of LA County Public Library, Sky Patrick, a Black woman. The director of LA County Cultural Affairs, a Black woman. The acting director right now of Department of Children and Family Services, Ginger, a Black woman. So there are Black women in powerful decision-making positions in the county. that I think you all need to know, and they need to know you. To be able to talk to you about ways in which you can engage, services that they make available. If LA County were the state, we'd be like the 9th largest and most powerful in the country. So LA County is not chopped liver. And there are Black women at the helm right now making things happen. My chief of staff is Black. Hold on one second, I'm sorry. Hey, baby.
Hey, Chair Monique, how are you? Are we waiting? Oh, she coming back.
I'm sorry.
I'm good. Oh, okay.
I'm a mother. So when
That's
the
right.
phone
That's
rings,
right.
I apologize.
No, that's okay. No apologies needed.
That is okay.
So that's the power of LA County. And I think that we should not be overwhelmed by it. But spend a little time understanding who the decision makers are and ways in which we can be supportive of them and they can be supportive of you and your priorities.
And I really appreciate you reminding us not to stretch ourselves too thin, because I am notorious for doing that, doing too much, and it's good to focus on one or two things.
I think it is, because then, you can measure your success.
Yeah.
When I was in the legislature, I brought my kind of nonprofit executive management way of thinking to public office and spent time with my staff and came up with, a strategic plan for our time in office, because in elected office, you're term limited and you look up in 10 years past. And that's what I did. And so I said, I want to be able to look back at 10 years and figure out if electing me versus my opponent really was in the best interest of the constituents I serve. And also selfishly, if it made sense for me, having taken a pay cut, going into a system where there is no pension. When I look back at 10 years, it was the best use of my own 10 years, quite frankly. The same kind of calculus anybody else does when you go for a job. Is this going to work for me and my family? And I wanted to be able to look back and say, Hala, you did that. And so we identified our, goal statement, which was to create a California in which all children thrive. And so every committee I was on, the committees I chaired, Budget Committee, first Black woman to chair the Budget Committee in the Senate, every bill I introduced was really focused on creating equity and an opportunity for families to have the resources they needed for their children to be successful. And people would come, then when folks see you, because you're focused, your successes are more apparent, then people are coming, we need you to be our champion. I appreciate that. Yes, your subject and your issue is important. It is not in my wheelhouse. And to remain disciplined enough to have a wheelhouse and say that is really important. But that's also what got me to 90 bills signed into law by 2 administrations, which is a really good record. And they weren't, little lightweight bills. Most of them were very heavy lifts because I could focus and get it done. And that's why I think it's important for you as an organization to identify those priorities that everyone can articulate. You can do your elevator speech. Oh, you're in this organization? Well, what do you do? We do A, B, and C. And I think that's what makes you powerful.
I appreciate that. So as the county supervisor for the 2nd district, what initiatives or programs does your office have to help with economic recovery for Black women?
Excellent question. And I would really encourage you all, whether you are 2nd district residents or not, to go to the website and sign up so you can get updates and bulletins from me. Because we're moving. I am clear. I'm clear about 2 things. That I operate in a term limited environment, so I don't have endless time. I'm operating in an environment, quite frankly, from my perspective, where they are coming for us being Black elected officials, they are coming for us. I operate in an environment where I am judged in a different way from my colleagues. I also operate in an environment where, thanks to COVID, the silver lining in this very ominous, dark 2-year-old cloud is unprecedented federal and state resources. For many years, we've all had the ideas about what we could do if we had the money. Well, we don't have the excuse of not having the money now. Billions of dollars rolling through. The CARES Act, the ARPA dollars, LA County got $1.9 billion. So not having the money to invest in doing the kinds of things that we've been researching and doing for so many years, we don't have that excuse. So I'm leaning in because this is an unprecedented opportunity and I'm not going to waste it. As chairwoman, I've carried several motions to require that those dollars be used and invested from an equitable perspective. The virus didn't infect all of LA County, all 5 districts equally. So we're not going to divide those resources by 5 equally. That's not what equity means. And so we have stood up an anti-racism initiative, an anti-Black initiative at the county. Dr. Scorza is our ED. He's created amazing metrics to help all of our county departments understand what equity services must look like in their departments, and those ARPA dollars will follow. So communities that have been disproportionately impacted by historic underinvestment and this virus should and will get a disproportionate investment. That's what equity looks like in real application. So I'm leaning in hard on that. And equity is, everybody wants to talk about equity until it comes to making the decisions about resource allocation. Then it's like, well, I'm not going to get mine. Well, let's look at the numbers. Let's look at your rate of unhoused. Let's look at your rate of unemployment. Let's look at your rate of positive COVID. Well, maybe you won't. Maybe those dollars need to go over here in these communities that have higher negative indicators. I'm also using this opportunity to talk about poverty alleviation in a 21st century context. I don't know if any of you followed the career of the former mayor of Stockton, Michael Tubbs. He's written a book and there's an HBO documentary about him, and his delightful wife just wrote a book also on the mothers of the civil rights heroes. And she was on King Day, CBS National News did an amazing piece on her. They are just a wonderfully powerful, just a dynamic young couple, and I just adore them. When he was mayor of Stockton, he launched the Guaranteed Income Program. Guaranteed Basic Income was a concept that was included in Dr. King's Poor People's Campaign 60 plus years ago. And the concept is, that, and I certainly experienced it as when I ran Crystal Stairs, that, poor women and poor mothers want the same for their children that everybody else does. And unfortunately, in government entitlement programs, we make people, we've criminalized poverty. We make people jump through hoops and spend down their assets, and the car can only be worth $5, and you can't have a house, you can't have a savings account. And then we give them the bare minimum. The average CalWORKS grant is an offensively, it's offensive. We give families so little money to raise their children. Then we wonder why we have so many unhoused in LA County. And so the Guaranteed Basic Income says that we're going to give you a certain dollar amount, no strings attached. And the Stockton evaluation was phenomenal. For a working mother to get an extra $500 a month meant that she could quit the second part-time job and be home when her kids came home from school to help them do their homework and spend family time. For some women, the Compton had a program, and I heard women talk about, well, let me get the carburetor fixed which allowed me to get one full-time job that was a little further from home because I'm not relying on public transportation, which only allowed me to get a job within my immediate surroundings. It's going to allow us to combat all of the negative tropes and isms associated with poverty. You know, when I was in the legislature and carried bills on CalWorks, you know, that whole notion of the welfare queen would continue to come up. And I have to tell you, there are no queens in welfare, because you can't be a queen trying to take care of 2 kids with $550 a month. And so hearing from young women who went back to school, who invested and started micro businesses. So we have launched the largest guaranteed basic income program in the country, using the University of, I think it's Penn State, the same research entity that did the program with Mayor Tubbs in Stockton, to really follow these families, because the goal is to see if we invest on the front end, can we truly crack multi-generational poverty? So in LA County, there'll be 1,000 participants who will get $1,000 a month for 3 years. I'm very excited about it. There are projects like this in about 50 cities and municipalities across the country. And I think it's going to help us change our attitudes about poor people, who they are, and why they're poor. And talk about really allowing them to invest in themselves and their families in a meaningful way. You know, I told the press when we launched the program, you know, some of my fondest memories as a kid were family vacations to San Diego or to the zoo or to Yosemite. Coming here to the Science Center. I'm in my district office here at Expo Park. And so if a mother wants to use some of those resources to take her kids on a road trip to see California, to come over here to the Science Center, those are investments that we all know as mothers are an integral part of their development and growth. And so if they want to use those resources for stuff like that, that CalWorks won't allow you to, that's fine with me. I will never forget the woman when I showed up at a parent meeting when I was CEO of Crystal Stairs, and Ryan was playing T-ball and I was in my T-ball jersey. And I said, you know, forgive me, it's Saturday, I'm in my T-ball jersey. The mother who pulled me to the side with her 11 and 12-year-old boy and said, you know, they've never been able to do that because I've never had the resource. Those who can't afford tutoring or can't afford to send them over here to the Science Center summer camp. We know that those are the kind of enrichment experiences that make the difference for our children, fundamentally. So I'm very proud of our guaranteed basic income program that we're launching. We've done some work around rent relief, providing support services to property owners and tenants. The county launched a rent relief program for commercial tenants. I heard from so many small businesses who had to close during the pandemic, who were struggling to make up their rent. So there's, again, using ARPA dollars to provide grants to small businesses, minority businesses, women-owned businesses, and micro businesses to help them catch up on their rent. We know that the small business sector, and I should say small employer, because when I say small business, people don't, I use different language. When I say small employer, because those are faith-based organizations, nonprofits, and businesses, small employers, who are the largest employers in our county. So making sure small employers survive is really important. So I'm proud of the commercial rent relief program that LA County has launched to support them. We're going to use some of the ARPA dollars to really try to address the issue of digital divide. We know and saw how many families struggle when kids had to try to learn from school and we were trying to log on for work, and no one I know, wherever you lived in LA County, had enough bandwidth for everybody to be on the internet at the same time in the middle of the day. Nobody did. And when I think about digital divide, I always think about it in the concept of communities that don't have like the infrastructure access. That's not the problem. 70% of my constituents in Florence Firestone can't afford internet access. The packages that AT&T and Spectrum, people can't afford it. So we're figuring out ways in which perhaps the county becomes a provider and truly close the digital divide by making internet access affordable to everyone. That's exciting to me, and really kind of cutting edge policy that we're bringing forward. I hope that you follow us. You know, we meet on Tuesdays. Please go to my website. You know, we've done motions like I appreciate the acknowledgement earlier, offering rewards. I am elevating these issues about Black women and girls not receiving the same kind of media attention when we go missing or are murdered, because I believe that is implicit bias. And again, the adultification of Black girls that influences the media's lens. They don't even see us to think that we are worthy of the attention. And so I'm pushing hard on that. Lots of really good stuff. I've been really busy this year. We, talked about oil drilling, recognizing the impact it has disproportionately on Black and brown people. So we're pushing back on environmental health issues, economic issues, ongoing health access, housing issues. So let me end on housing, because that can become a political third rail. And then I'll open it up for questions or whatever. I don't want to get ahead of myself, whatever your structure suggests. I really struggle when people stop me at the gas station or more regularly at Costco when I'm trying to whiz through there and get some cases of water on the one day or half a day I might have off during the week. And people want to say, what are you going to do about homelessness? So I said, well, I think what we have to talk about as a community about is what we are going to do about the unhoused. Because what I cannot do as a county supervisor is wave a magic wand and create more land space. That I do not have the power to do. And so we all have to come together to talk about what we are willing to do, what we can stomach in terms of status quo, which is upwards of 80,000 people every night unhoused on the street, what we can stomach in terms of thinking creatively about what housing can and should look like, and whether or not we are willing for our own, the composition and the look of our own blocks to change. Those are the questions everybody has to ask themselves. I am clear that this is a moral crisis. I am not comfortable, and it does not sit well with me. That we have people who suffer from mental illness and substance use disorder, and some people who simply can't afford the rent, who are living in their cars and going to work every day because they can't afford housing in LA County. So we have to talk about what that means. That means legislation around ADUs to empower those of you who are homeowners to build an ADU unit in the back. So maybe you can get that 22-year-old child of yours off of your couch into a unit of their own because they can't afford housing. That means that we perhaps build more dense or build taller. It means that we have to figure out what kind of civilized society we choose to build and live in LA County, and what we all are willing to do to make that happen.
There's only 2 more questions, if that's okay. Okay. All right. So how is your office working to reduce barriers to employment, allow Black women to successfully re-enter the labor force, retain employment, and work towards economic security?
Couple ways. First of all, increasing access to LA County as an employer. My mother was a prison warden. She was the warden at the California Institution for Women in Frontera. So you can only imagine being in high school and your mom was the prison warden. And she acted at home just like she did at the prison. Yeah, she was a warden home and there. But she started at CIW, the firefighter training academy for the women, because she believed in equity. And the men would go out and fight fires and learn a trade and get out of the prison. And so she started that program. And what has happened is over the years, California Department of Corrections has a pretty significant firefighting program. And yet they go out and fight fires, wildfires, and risk their lives, making pennies per hour, unlike the firefighters. And then when they get released, they can't go to the firefighters academy and move into that profession, which is unfortunate. So we are looking at a camp here to allow those who've been released to go to a camp to perhaps become firefighters. We have looked at, particularly those, our former foster youth, disproportionate number of them are Black girls, to create a prioritization in entering county service. The number of, the county family is deep, and the number of people who spend their entire careers in county service in the Black community is really quite significant. I know all of you all know somebody who works for the county, I'm sure. And so creating pathways into employment is really important. If you're running a woman-owned business, trying to get a contract with the county can be more than a notion. And so we've tried to simplify and create opportunities for true small businesses that you didn't have to come in as a sub under a major contractor, but to simplify the process and open up county government so small businesses can get contracts with the county. That's significant, given the amount of goods and services that we contract out. So those are just off the top of my head, the top 3 ways in which, and then there's, we have a workforce development training department. There, no one really knows, as I have learned this last year, all that you could avail yourself in terms of county programs and supports. Park and Rec works really hard in terms of creating space and opportunities for kids and young girls. The libraries. So there are any number of ways, and really just understanding county government and services that the county provides is really the first hurdle in making sure people know what they should be asking for and to whom.
All right, thank you for that. And our final question is, how can our chapter amplify your work with economic opportunity and empowerment for Black women and girls?
I really appreciate you asking that and offering yourselves in that way. And I would ask if you just identify a chapter member or two who is willing to sign up to get our newsletter, who will once or twice a month, maybe, peruse the agenda, see if there are anything coming up on the County Board of Supervisors, watch a board meeting, get a sense of what we're working on to keep you informed about what I'm doing. And so you stay plugged in and show up for me. Sometimes it could be a little lonely. I'm out there shaking my fist, leaning in and wondering, gee, I wonder where my sisters are who are going to directly benefit from all this work I'm doing. And so sometimes the expectation is on me to stop what I'm doing. I'm in the middle of the fight. I have taken off my hoop earrings and I'm fighting, but I'm supposed to stop to call everybody, get everybody up to speed on the issue, and then ask for help. I would just ask that one person, whoever, just kind of keep your eye on what we're doing so you can keep the chapter informed and come help a sister out. Because you should know I have a Black female chief of staff, Frederica McGee. Got to tell you, I'm very proud of the fact that my team is the most diverse of all members of the boards of supervisors. And we are centered in equity, and all those who work for me share that goal. And we talk about it. I ask people, what's your interest in joining Team Mitchell? What's your why? Why do you do public service as a profession? And so I'm proud to say every member of my team, we're about 45 strong, were clear what they were signing up for and understood the mission and show up and show out like they boss on a regular basis. For those of you who call the second district home, you should be proud to know I got a team of fighters. We're warriors working on your behalf every day.
I really appreciate your time. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we took questions from the chat?
Let me stop talking and hear your questions.
Really quick before I do that, aren't you tall?
I am.
Someone told me you were tall, and I just wanted to know. All right, you're 6 feet, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so my fellow 6-footer, I'm taller than you, but I always say hey to my 6 feet.
All right.
Back to policy.
I see you. I see you.
I'm gonna pass it back to Latanya.
Yeah, in fact, I have a standing desk, and so we had to find a standing desk that could really elevate as tall as I am, so we could do a real standing desk. Because all the others, the cameras were about at my chin. That's so funny.
Well, this was great. Thank you again, Supervisor Mitchell. We do have, I think, 2 questions that are in the chat. So the first one is there anything in the works in regards to homeowners, specifically when it comes to the Renters Protection Memorandum, which was extended? Homeowners are losing their homes due to this extension in our community, and they need help. That was the first question. You want me to read it again, or you got it?
I'm so glad you asked the question. I read the statistics Tuesday. Let's see if I can remember it. Oh, Lord. So you know that there is the relief program. When the state rolled it out, it was 80% of your back owed rent. Now it's 100%. And your tenant, the landlord or the tenant can apply. And whoever applies and gets accepted, the other does need to provide some information. But I don't want to misquote it. A significant 30% of those in LA County who owe rent have gone through the program, and those dollars have been paid out to the landlord. Making sure people know how to apply, to go through the process is really important, because there are dollars available. And what I don't want to have happen are for those dollars to go unused. It's, government, we come up with all these little pithy websites, and I don't remember what it is. But if you go to my website, if you just peruse my website, mitchell@lacounty.gov,
That's what I was going to ask. Can we find it on your website?
You should be able to find it on my website, mitchell@lacounty.gov. If you don't, call the office, 213, I'll put it in chat too, 974-2222, and tell them you're looking for the website for the rent relief program. It got confusing for a minute because LA City was running one, the county had one, and the state had one. For the second tranche of federal dollars, the state said, back up counties, let us do it. We were concerned because the county got dollars on the streets faster than the state, but the governor was adamant. And so now it's the city and the state program. The county is running the commercial rent relief program for unincorporated LA County. And so there are dollars available. We are lobbying right now, federal and state government, for additional dollars to try to make everyone whole. My concern is making sure Black property owners apply. And most often, I won't say that's the case in the person who posed this question, but most often when people ask that question, they don't know anything about this program. And so I'm like, so there is a government program to meet that need. I need you to apply for it. So please check it out and apply.
Okay, great. Thank you. There was a question also, is there an electronic newsletter? And Ms. Richards answered that. So check the chat. She put the information up for her electronic newsletter. You can access the actual webpage there, and it'll take you straight there.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another question. What is being considered by the county supervisors to address the problem of homelessness in our communities? How is the problem of trash on the sidewalks and on the streets being addressed?
Let me tell you something about the trash issue, because this is a delicate one. Well, first of all, the county with the city and state Government historically has not been in the home construction business, but because LA County is 500,000 housing units short of what we need, and the state is maybe twice that, government has got involved. Measure H and Measure HHH that were on our ballot several years ago allocated public dollars to build. And LA County and LA City are building at a pace like never before. Well, Holly, okay, you say that, but I don't see it because the RV encampment and the tent encampment are still on my block. And this is why. Every day, LASA, the housing organization, and county and city government house 212 people every day. And every day, 229 new people fall into houselessness. So we can't make a dent. As fast as we're bailing the water out the boat, we're taking more water in. So we are working to keep people housed where they are. That was part of the eviction moratorium. We couldn't afford for people to be evicted and more people enter the streets. I carried a bill that was controversial when I was in the legislature around Section 8. People had a Section 8 voucher in LA County. It was a 10-year wait list to get a Section 8 voucher. You'd finally get your voucher. You've been waiting for 10 years and couldn't find a landlord who would accept it. And those vouchers expire. And we said that a landlord couldn't discriminate against you based on your source of income. The voucher basically becomes a source of income, right? The vouchers people have so many misconceptions about Section 8. It's fascinating to me. The vouchers, a landlord, as long as it's not outrageous, if it's market value, you will get market value for your unit if somebody has a Section 8 voucher. We're not asking you to take less. People will have a horror story about a Section 8 tenant. Well, I have some horror stories about some non-Section 8 tenants. I'm a landlord, horror stories, right? And so what we said was you couldn't discriminate against source of income. It didn't mandate that you accept the Section 8 applicant, but it did say if you had 2 applications, our income was the same because you're counting my voucher toward my income. It did say that you couldn't discriminate against me just because of the source of my income. So what you are supposed to no longer see is advertisements that say 2-bedroom, 1 bath, no Section 8. You can't advertise no Section 8. You have to take the application and at least give me a shot and evaluate me. That's all people are asking. Evaluate me against the next applicant, against my rental history, all the things that as landlords we look at. Just evaluate me. You say no Section 8 in the ad, I can't even get my foot in the door. So those are the kinds of policies that we're having to tweak. The federal government gives us vouchers. Section 8 is what most people know, but there are vouchers for veterans, all kinds of vouchers. We're asking the federal government to just give us the vouchers, don't categorize them, and let us use them as we know people need them in LA County. Those are policies that may be invisible to you that are really going to make a big difference. The one downside of Measure H was it was restricted and those monies could only go to brand new construction. That means that if you were operating a board and care facility, that you couldn't use some of those dollars to expand and maybe have more people. Board and cares, we're losing board and care homes across the state at record numbers. And those were wonderful family-based options where 6 people could get, for the unhoused person who is probably never going to be successful on their own, who need help, either with their medications, managing their money. We all know people that were in board and care. We all know people who have family members who are not going to quite make it on their own. That's just the reality. And so we have to build all kinds of housing to meet the various needs of our unhoused. People want to talk about shelters. Well, for every shelter bed we build, we need 5 permanent supportive housing options for families, for veterans, for people experiencing mental health, substance abuse disorder. We need a variety of permanent housing options to meet the needs of people who are unhoused to guarantee their likelihood of success. The other issue, the vast majority of the people you see in tents have cycled in and out of some kind of program, and they weren't able to be successful and stay housed. We have to stop that churn as well. That's the kind of work the county is doing. On the trash piece, have you ever driven by an encampment and wondered, well, how'd the couch get out there? How'd the refrigerator get out there? Well, some of us are engaging in illegal dumping. And then it's convenient for us to blame our unhoused family, friends, and neighbors. Our unhoused family, friends, and neighbors don't have the luxury we have of, for me, it's Friday morning trash pickup. So what are they supposed to do? So we have to think differently. We have to stop the illegal dumping. And with 211, I don't know why people dump illegally. Put it in front of your house, call 211, they'll pick it up on your next trash day. It doesn't cost you. I don't know why people do it. Don't do it. We have to stop the illegal dumping. And we have to give people an opportunity. There are some folks who don't want to provide services at encampments because they think that that will make people want to stay. It will be attractive. But we certainly realized during this public health pandemic that people needed restroom facilities and places to wash their hands, because this was a virus, airborne freaking virus. And so I believe as we're moving people and finding places for them to go, that we should provide hand washing facilities, restroom facilities, and trash pickup. I believe if given those opportunities, more likely than not, people would use it. Our brothers and sisters who are suffering from mental illness and have other issues, maybe not, but there are a significant number of people who are living on the streets who that is not their problem. They are either domestic violence victims, and that's where Black women often find themselves. They have been trafficked. They have criminal records. They've been evicted. And try to recover from an eviction as a Black woman with some kids and find somebody else to rent to you. It ain't a pretty picture. So we are working on those things. I am working on, the county provides trash can receptacles on the beaches. And we do a art contest, and the winners from each district, their art goes around the trash cans and it says your names. I was really tickled walking down the beach and saw my name on the trash can. That was a funny day. And so I'm like, if we do that at the parks and the beaches, can we make the same trash receptacles available everywhere people are and empty them regularly? So those are some of the things, innovative ideas we're trying to come up with to try to help with that issue.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I have one more question, and then we have two of my coalition sisters that would like to ask questions. So my last question in the chat is, thank you for adopting the United Nations Treaty to end all forms of discrimination against women. What can 100 Black women do, specifically this chapter, to partner with you to support the United Nations Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination?
So, CEDAW is something that the Women's Caucus, when I was in the legislature, we get it. We're passing it. It's our patriarchal American government that is confused. And so I think that I get it. I got you. I'm there, but I'm not the deciding authority with regard to CEDAW. That's at the congressional level. So I think we need to continue to push this administration. In the meantime, policies like, quite frankly, the bill I carried in the legislature, the Crown Act, which addressed Black women experiencing workplace and school place discrimination. You couldn't get promoted, suspended from school, whatever the case may be, for wearing your hair in its natural state. I think that there are individual policies we can do to get to the core issue of discrimination, because I'm too old now to sit and wait for CEDAW to pass. We have to chip away at it issue by issue.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm going to turn it over to my coalition sister, Kimberly Watson, to ask a question. Following her will be our public policy co-chair, Monique Bacon. Thank you again. We really do appreciate you taking your time out this evening. Kimberly.
Hello, thank you so much for being here with us today. We appreciate you so much. And I wanted to ask a question. I'm the first vice president of programs, and I wanted to ask a question on behalf of our Economic Empowerment Committee. So we are working on a financial literacy series for women in our community who are unbanked and underbanked. And these can be individuals, these can be small business owners, and we're looking for incentives for them for their completion, but also for particularly the small business owners. We're looking for some way to help with resources, because we've realized that for many of them, the barrier to their participation in programs like the PPE loans, even the SBE, MBE certifications, and even some of the government contracts are their lack of financials, their lack of big banking relationships. So is there someone you can recommend that we reach out to help them navigate these processes?
Very good question. Two things. First of all, Wells Fargo just gave the Urban League a truckload of money here locally to do exactly what you're talking about, and to provide grants to small businesses as an incubator.
Okay.
So please call Michael Lawson,
Okay.
like tomorrow,
Okay.
and tell him the program you're operating, and then how can you partner to make sure that this Wells Fargo grant, and you can feel free to say, Supervisor Mitchell told us.
Okay.
How you can make sure that the women who are coming through your program benefit from that.
Okay.
And I hope that you partner with banks. When I was at Crystal Stairs, I was shocked at the number of childcare providers that were unbanked. And so they were taking their childcare provider payments that they got from Crystal Stairs and going to check cashing places and just being robbed,
Yeah.
I got a call from the state auditors, alarmed at the number of providers who were cashing their checks at the card rooms in Gardena. Gardena was the service area for Crystal Stairs.
Yeah.
And I said, do you know that you can cash a check at a card room and not pay the fees that you pay at mixed check cashing? Don't come at me assuming that the child care providers are taking their payments and gambling. They're going to where they can cash the check more cheaply.
Yeah.
And get off my damn phone. Pardon my phone. Because you know what the inference was.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I knew better. So I partnered with banks. Didn't pick one bank, told all the banks to come to look at this sector and this industry of women who are running small businesses unbanked. And that the banks needed to modify their policies about you have to keep $100 in your account, all that they had to do, because they were missing out on a huge sector. And so I would encourage you to go to a couple of banks. Don't favor one or the other, because you're not trying to drive business to them. You're trying to get them to understand why people are unbanked. It's not because we have an aversion to the banks. It's because we have situations that prevent us from being banked. And banks need to acknowledge that, from my perspective. But call the Urban League first.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again, really quick, because I know we told you only a certain amount of time, but really, really quick, and I promise you I'm gonna turn it right over to our president. I did attend that the county meeting the other day, and I just want to thank you because you handled that very well with all of the technology issues.
Did you see all that drama?
Oh,
and then the
my God.
The public people
Lord.
calling in and calling me out of my name.
Ooh, yes, and I was trying to get on to tell them to leave you alone, but I couldn't get on. But anyway,
You were so diplomatic. I couldn't have handled it as good as you did.
No, you did good. You did
Thank
good.
Let me say this.
Okay.
I am clear they are coming for me every day, every way, every opportunity. I just am. And it's not that I've resolved that it's okay, but I've resolved that I am going to lean in on behalf of all of you. I'm the only one that looks like all of you on that board. And so I'm going to show them by my actions and deeds that I have capacity, that I am a leader, and I'm not afraid to lead. That when I have the gavel, I'm in charge. And that goes to the other 4 who serve with me too, because they come for me half the time too. Let me just break it, be very.
Because they tried to come for you that day and you
They tried to come for me
smoothly
too.
covered them over. I was like, oh, I ain't mad
They
at
tried to come for me too. And I wasn't born, as my chief of staff likes to tell their chiefs of staff, we weren't born at night or last night. I may be new to the county, but I'm not new to the game. And I'm not gonna let them see me sweat. Because the community who I represent needs too much and deserves more than I can bring to the table. So I'm gonna lean in and fight every day on your behalf. So I appreciate you watching. That was the most drama. But you know, the reality is we are all living in a time that's less than ideal, and technology fails. And that's not my fault. Trust me, I have meetings all day tomorrow with AT&T, because what we're paying AT&T, they gonna get it right. But I appreciate knowing that you all were there trying to have my back. And just know, because you know, my mama taught me, I'm gonna be clean when I chair those meetings every week, because you know, that's what you always want me to be. And I'm gonna handle my business.
Well, thank you so much. The very last question, really, and this is with respects to the meeting, because I saw item number 22 about preserving reproductive health access on the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, and you did say develop a plan within 30 days. So my question is, how can we follow up on what that actual plan is? Where can we see it at? And then when after you answer that, President Downs, you can go ahead and take it over to conclude our meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Vicky. She sure was watching the meeting. She knew the agenda item number and everything. Go ahead. Thank you for being there. For those who weren't, the issue is, you know, this was the 49th anniversary of Roe v. Wade. And I am sad to say, I believe this Supreme Court will turn it over. Mm-hmm. California's state constitution protects a woman's right to choice in the state of California. And I don't know how many other states are reproductive freedom states. And so what we were saying in this motion was, and to develop a plan, is we know women are going to come to California. Well, if they overturn Roe v. Wade, that will not stop abortion, because abortions happened in this country before we made it safe and legal. All Roe v. Wade did was make it safe and legal. And so we know that women will come to reproductive freedom states. And our point was wanting to make sure that LA County women who rely on the same providers don't get kind of pushed back into the side, because women are going to be coming here. So what do we need to start thinking about and doing and planning for now to guarantee access to on-demand full complement of reproductive health services? Timely, because that's important. As well as prepare for what will very likely happen in our country and the impact it will have on our state's health infrastructure. That's what the motion was, for them to come back. You know, the county is a healthcare provider, our public health clinics, our county hospitals, and we are the safety net. We provide services on demand to people who show up and need it. And so we want to be thoughtful and strategic so we can plan for what tragically, from my perspective, is the inevitable. And so it's a really good question, and it's really been a part of my struggle with the county, because as you said, you heard that, okay, it's going to be a report back in 30 days. So do I come to another board meeting in 30 days? Will I hear the report back? And it doesn't always work that way. We will probably agendize the report back so it is public for everyone to hear. But if you go to my website, the last page or so, or there's a link that will show you staff. And we have the pictures and names of all my staff and their email addresses. So Yolanda Vera, V-E-R-A, is my senior health deputy. Send Yolanda an email and say, we're tracking this motion. How do we get access to the 30-day report back? Because it may be trying to send you to a link. It may be we agendize it. It could vary. Thank
Ms.
you,
Richards,
Lene. Oh,
yes,
there's one. Thank you,
she's
Lene.
on it. It's in the chat,
Thank you,
Monique.
Lene.
Yeah,
I
she's
can't
on.
talk and type at the same time. So that's why you have to hire smarter than you, younger than you women to help you out. Turn on your camera, Lene, so they can see you.
Amen for you saying that.
There she is. That's Lene Richards, my comms director. Thank you, Lene. I appreciate you.
Supervisor Mitchell, I'm off mute. Oh my goodness, didn't I tell you at the beginning, you get to end your day with a coalition of 100 Black women. So hopefully you've inspired us so many nuggets of knowledge and information. And hopefully now you've ended your day on a high because you have spent your evening with a very dynamic organization. So on behalf of everyone, our entire chapter, thank you so very much. I believe you said we only need one of you, but I promise you, you will have many of us in those meetings representing all of the efforts that you're trying to push through. So thank you.